Have you ever looked at a family that seemed to have it all together? Success, unity, love, and wondered what was really happening behind closed doors? Do perfect smiles in family portraits always mean a perfect life? The Middleton family, once hailed as the blueprint for middle-class success and social grace, might make you think twice. Because behind their polished public image lies a story much more complicated, deeply human, and surprisingly emotional. The Middletons were long admired for their charm and composure. They came across as warm, tight-knit, and quietly ambitious, a family whose home seemed filled with laughter, structure, and opportunity. Carol and Michael Middleton, with their modest beginnings and admirable work ethic, created what looked like the ideal environment to raise children. From the outside, they were a success story, a thriving family business, well-mannered children, and a daughter who would one day marry a future king. But those who've spent time close to them tell a very different story. One where the warmth was sometimes missing, where emotions were kept tightly in check, and where ambition quietly took a toll. Carol Middleton was the powerhouse of the household. She was sharp, organized, determined, and always in control. When she launched Party Pieces in 1987, it wasn't just a way to earn money. It was her way of building a better life for her family. It started small, run from the kitchen, with creative party decorations and clever marketing. But Carol poured herself into it. She left behind her job as a flight attendant and set her sights on something bigger. She ran the household with the same kind of energy, calculated, precise, and ambitious. In contrast, Michael was quiet, more passive, always supportive but never the driving force. He helped with logistics and stayed in the background, rarely offering strong opinions or leading any major decisions. That dynamic shaped the household and left an impression on their children, especially Catherine. Those who knew Catherine as a child often describe her as composed and reserved. It wasn't royal training that taught her how to keep emotions under control. It was home. She grew up in an environment where calm was prized, and emotions, while not unwelcome, were never freely expressed. There wasn't tension in the traditional sense. No big arguments. No dramatic scenes. But there was a sense of emotional distance. Carol and Michael were respectful with each other, but they weren't openly affectionate. Even in private, their connection felt more like a quiet agreement than a passionate partnership. This subtle emotional gap shaped how Catherine learned to behave and later how she carried herself in the spotlight. The success of Party Pieces brought the Middletons wealth, status, and access. Their children were sent to prestigious schools, introduced to elite social circles, and invited to the right events. By the time Catherine met Prince William, it didn't feel like a surprise. The family had already climbed many social steps. But with success came pressure. And Carol, who had once been driven in the best sense of the word, became relentless. As competition increased and trends changed, she pushed harder, making bold investments and trying to grow Party Pieces into a global brand. Michael, ever cautious, tried to voice his concerns. But his quiet nature meant his warnings were easy to overlook. Carol was determined, and in her mind, failure wasn't an option. Unfortunately, the risks didn't pay off. Party Pieces began to falter. Suppliers weren't paid on time. Debts piled up. The once thriving brand started to slip quietly into decline. It didn't happen all at once, and it wasn't splashed across headlines. But within the family, the collapse was deeply felt. Carol continued to fight for the business, refusing to let go. Michael grew more distant, almost emotionally checked out. The quiet balance they had always maintained was now more of a disconnect than a partnership. The emotional gap widened. And Catherine, who had always remained close and loyal, began to step back. People close to her noticed the shift. Though she remained polite and respectful, there was a coolness now. The warmth she once shared with her parents seemed dimmed. Her recent reflections on her childhood, subtle and understated, paint a picture of a girl who grew up with structure, opportunity, and care, but not necessarily deep emotional closeness. She doesn't criticize her upbringing, but she doesn't idealize it either. That honesty makes her more relatable, more human. It shows that even someone raised in a perfect family had to learn to navigate emotional complexity. Carol's dream for Party Pieces was never just about business. It was about creating a stable life, rising above her working-class roots, and giving her children everything she didn't have. Born in 1955 in Southall, West London, Carol grew up with hardworking parents who valued discipline and planning. Her father was a builder, and her mother worked part-time. Carol inherited their grit and their sense of purpose. After school, she became a secretary, then joined British Airways as a flight attendant, where she gained the grace and confidence that would later serve her well. Michael, born 6 years earlier, came from a more privileged background. He attended private schools and had a quiet, gentle demeanor. He also worked in aviation, though his role was more behind the scenes. That's where he met Carol. She was outgoing, organized, and sharp. He was calm, kind, and steady. Despite their different upbringings, they clicked. Their early relationship was built on mutual respect. They worked hard, saved carefully, and raised their children in a modest, loving environment. In those early days, their bond was visible: small smiles, shared moments, and a sense of working together as a team. When Catherine was born in 1982, followed by Pippa and James, the Middletons focused on creating a warm and stable home. Carol planned out their days with a sense of order and creativity. Michael, though quieter, was always present, offering gentle support and encouragement. Their home was filled with simple joys: school mornings, family meals, birthday surprises. It wasn't flashy, but it was consistent. And when Party Pieces began at the kitchen table, it brought new energy into the household. The children saw their mother's creativity and their father's support. It felt like a family project, even if Carol was clearly in charge. As Party Pieces grew, so did the family's social status. They bought a larger home, attended high-profile events, and became known in elite circles. But success came with a price. Carol's focus shifted almost entirely to the business. Michael, uncomfortable with the limelight and the risks, pulled back even further. What had once been a balanced, if quiet, relationship became one of emotional disconnection. The business, once a symbol of unity, began to create distance. Carol's intensity and Michael's passivity no longer complemented each other. They clashed in silence. The fall of Party Pieces wasn't just the collapse of a company. It was the unraveling of a family myth. The perfect image no longer held up. And for Catherine, who had already stepped into one of the world's most scrutinized roles as Princess of Wales, it meant coming to terms with her roots in a new way. She didn't reject her family, but she started seeing them with clearer eyes. Her public comments about childhood became more real, more balanced. She spoke of love, but also of pressure, of privilege, but also of emotional control. The Middleton story is not about villains or heroes. It's about human beings. About a woman who wanted more for her family and sacrificed everything to get it. About a man who supported quietly, but perhaps too passively. About children raised in comfort, but not always in warmth. It's a story many families might recognize in their own way: the pursuit of success, the silent emotional costs, the pressure to appear perfect even when things are falling apart. Today, Catherine carries herself with the same grace she learned at home. But now, she seems more willing to show who she really is. Not just a princess raised in a fairy tale, but a woman shaped by real-life complexities. Her upbringing didn't just prepare her for royal life. It taught her how to carry strength quietly, how to be composed under pressure, and how to move forward even when things are hard. The Middleton family, once seen as the picture of perfection, has shown us something far more important: the reality behind the appearances. Their story reminds us that every family has its struggles, that ambition can be both inspiring and dangerous, and that emotional connection is just as important as success. It's a story of love, ambition, distance, and resilience. And it proves that even behind the most beautiful smiles, there's always more than meets the eye. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more real, powerful stories behind the headlines.